So today I'm going to switch it up a little bit because 90% of my builds are based around having a high heroic, high valor stat build. But for today, for Kate Bishop, this is going to be a high precision, high ranged build. And honestly, it's one of those things where it's like, I feel like I can keep on buffing out the edges of this build. I really feel like I can keep on going with it. I know there is an exotic piece that I know will make this build 10 times better, but it drops from the elite heroic hive and it's an exotic, so you already know how that game goes. Trying to farm for a specific exotic from the elite heroic hive is just a hassle and a half. So I am just going to put out what I got so far because I still think this is obviously very good. In my opinion, it's best for handling high volumes of mobs. It's not necessarily super high output of damage against bosses. It is, but it's not, you're not one-shotting it like Thor, right? You're not one-shotting it with the spread shot. This is the best for the mobs and stuff like that. So this is, like I said, this is a high ranged, high precision. So let's take a look at the stats. So where am I looking? I'm used to looking at the valor. Okay, so the precision, got my precision stat at 436, and obviously that is the main thing you want to look for when you're trying to up your ranged stat. And obviously if you can still get the proficiency in there as much as possible, simply because having an increased critical chance and an increased perk chance always helps when you're trying to output the most damage. So let's take a look at her melee, and a lot of this you'll most likely find will not be perk specific. Like, you're not going to be looking for perks, you're just going to be looking at the stats. So this has a precision stat of 62 and a proficiency of 57, so this is actually a really good piece for what I'm trying to go for. I will say as well, the one perk on this that can help is the 15% increased status damage from bow attacks. Now that's not flat damage, that is only status damage, but that can help for getting status onto an enemy quickly. So obviously what the main thing you're concerned about here though is the high precision, so the precision stat of 62. And then moving on to the ranged piece. So the ranged piece, again, perks aren't really all that. The precision of having a precision of 59, that's a really good high precision stat. Having a valor of 59 also helps too. Having a good valor accompanying this type of build is not bad at all either. The ranged attacks with explosive arrows deal shock damage. Not all that. Again, the main thing for this is the precision stat. So I think, and now I know I was talking about before, there's an exotic that I'm trying to get actively that is dropped from the elite heroic hive. I think it is a ranged exotic, and the reason why I want to get it is because hopefully if I do ever get it, it'll already have a high precision on it, so I won't have to try to farm it again. But I think the perk on it that I'm looking for is either a 10, 15, or 20% increase of damage to scattershot arrows. And that is the main thing that I use in this build. So if I were to get a flat damage increase in scattershot arrows like that, that's what's going to make this build 10 times better than what it already is. So now with the defensive piece, again, I'm just going to make myself mute and make my throat sore talking about this over and over and over again. But on the defensive piece, you're going to want the taking damage grants a damage buff, because right now this is pre-Spider-Man's release. I keep on forgetting to say this at the beginning, but this is pre-Spider-Man release. This is pre-patch 2.2, I believe it is, on November 30th. I just wanted to get the rest of my builds out there so I can fine-tune them over time for after the power level cap is increased with that release and patch. But right now, the meta before that drops is 15%, not 15% specifically, but it is taking damage grants a damage buff on the defensive piece of gear. That is what you want to look for, and obviously this has a high precision of 56 and a high proficiency of 50. So the 15% taking damage grants a damage buff is what you want for any type of build at all. And then the heroic piece, so I will say as well, I do have an exotic version of this piece right here, so I'll go over both of them. So this has a high precision, yes, but the perk Surge Enhancer does help a lot with this build. The 20% increased damage and impact while Quantum Surge is active. Basically, that means when she's overcharged, she gets a 20% increased damage. And that can really help, especially because when you're not getting touched because you're staying far away using ranged, you can get her overcharged very quickly and very easily. And in the duration that she's overcharged, she will have an flat increase of 20% damage. Now, I do have this exotic piece right here, and as you can tell, it doesn't bring the stats down that much. It only brings the precision or range stat down by 1%, and it only brings the valor stat down by 3%. The only reason why I don't have this equipped, obviously this has a lot better perks. It still has the 20% increased damage for Quantum Surge. That's the same. And then it has the 10% duration of decoy, and increase the damage and effectiveness of the decoy. And then the 20% increased range damage during Quantum Overdrive. That seems really dope, right? Don't get me wrong, but especially the 20% increased in range damage during Quantum Overdrive, that helps a lot more with what would be a Valor high heroic build with her, which I do plan on doing, but I just think the precision would be better for her and how I like to play her. So I don't really use ranged or Quantum Overdrive like that in this build, so it's honestly really a toss-up which one you would rather have. I want this one right now just because it has the higher precision stat and the higher valor stat, even if it's only a little bit, just because I don't be using Quantum Overdrive with this build like that, or I should say especially ranged Quantum Overdrive like that. I will say though, it's not bad at all, right? Like if I already used the ranged arrows in Quantum Overdrive with this perk and piece of gear equipped, it'll do like, 40 to 60,000 per arrow, which is a lot, right? But having the scatter shot, in my opinion, just does more damage without even going into Quantum Overdrive. And then you want the 2 epic minor ISOs that have the 1 skill attached that you're looking for. So obviously for this build, I am looking for high precision, high range. So I'm going for the double precision on the minor artifact build, right? And then obviously I was lucky enough to have 2 Valor ones already, which is the ones I always struggle with. But honestly, in my opinion, if you keep a lookout in the Inhuman and Shield faction vendors, finding a precision minor ISO and a might minor ISO it's not that hard to do, right? It's a lot easier than the Valor one. So just make sure you have double epic minor precision ISOs to get yourself to 150. You can obviously have rares, but you're just not going to be able to get to a power of 150 with the rares. So you want to get the epics. And then you just want to use for this one, you don't have to worry about switching to the Tactagon with this one. You can if you want, but it's not going to do anything, right? Because the Tactagon gives a flat passive stat buff to melee and heroic, but this is neither a melee or heroic build. This is a precision build. So as you can see, I mean, it increases it by 40. That really, like, right? That's nothing. So you're better off just not even worrying about the switch and just having the Sacred Nornstone equipped the whole time, because the Sacred Nornstone is what you're going to want to activate for that flat damage buff. So just use the Nornstone, activate the major artifact damage buff, and that's how you're going to output the most damage. But that's about it for the Kate Bishop build. I will leave this video with some gameplay of her in action. Like I said, this build is awesome for a lot of mobs and stuff like that. It doesn't do a lot of output against bosses. I will show damage output against bosses, but this is not really what that does. This is just really good for getting through any type of stage in general, period. So I will leave this with some gameplay of her with this build, and I appreciate you for watching this video.
The Abomination clone is defeated. Well done, Avengers.